Hi, welcome to the Capital Prize. My name's Paul. I'm going to be your tour guide today. We are going to go over 1,000 feet into the side of this mountain here. And since we cannot see the top of our mountain, I want you to look at this one over here, because that is what will be over our heads once we get back there. Now, gold was discovered in this very creek right here in January of 1859 down by Idaho Springs. And the gentleman that found it was pretty proud of himself. In fact, he couldn't keep his mouth shut. And so the gold rush of 1859 was on, and within the summer of 1859 there were thousands of miners on this creek, all gold panning and sluicing, trying to get rich. Back in the day, the U.S. had a mantra of go west, young man, and find your riches, and that's what all these gold miners were doing here. Now, since there's so many gold miners getting what's called the placer gold or free gold, it got played out within a few years. They had found everything they could. Now they know that gold comes from them there are hills, so what they do is they start walking these hillsides and looking for those signs of a mineral deposit. And they found a very large one on the top of Griffith Mountain right here. They did a survey on it, and it was running along the length of the top, and it looked like it was coming straight down to the bottom. Now, they did some mining up top, but that's a difficult way to mine. So what they do is they come down to the base of the mountain here and you start boring your tunnel. And they hit it at 3,200 feet. I'm going to call it the mother lode from now on because you guys are familiar with that term, the mother lode. On their 3,200 foot journey they discovered 17 other major gold and silver veins, and that's what we're going to see on our 1,000-foot journey. I'm pretty sure anybody 10 and older is going to agree with me at the end of this tour that they are crazy miners. This is also still an active mine. The miners are not here today, so I can say this, but they're crazy as well. They do weird stuff, like have a Frankenstein over here. The kids have been playing with the helmet. And we got Mr. Bones hanging on the wall over here. Alright, so let's go in.
I love these nice cool mines on a hot summer day.
50 degrees year round, so in the summertime it feels good. In the wintertime when it's snowing and blowing and 0 degrees outside, that's when we come inside here. So you've been in several mines, you're looking around right now, you can see this is a fairly large mine.
It is a big mine.
800 feet down that tunnel goes to the Griffith mine, and it's the Griffith brothers that discovered that mine and the Capital Prize. They are also the founding fathers of Georgetown. We are underneath Griffith Mountain right now. So that's the significance of this mine here. I also have this cap light here. I don't wear it on my helmet because I'll blind you guys, but I'm going to highlight all the cool stuff we're going to see.
Okay.
Now, if there's any geologists in the group, I'd like to find out, because geologists come underground here. It's like a kid in a candy store. The stuff we're going to see. So we're 100 feet in, so already we found something right here. Right here on the wall, the miners call this color when you see all the sparkle like that. But you can see it's a very distinct line forming a vein here. Now these veins are formed when the earth was cooling billions of years ago, and there was these cracks and fissures, and hot water intrudes into these cracks and fissures and deposit these minerals. That's how we get them to look like the veins there. So that's one there. And if you look here, this is another gold vein. Comes all the way up here like this, and it comes around. But this is very low grade. This was not worth mining. Because back in the day, they needed to make a certain amount of money in order to be profitable. Let's say, for example, they needed a minimum of 2 ounces of gold per ton. It's a unit of measure. Those ore carts, when they're full of rock, they weigh 1 ton. It's a unit of measure we still use today. The mother lode that I alluded to at 3,200 feet is as high as 22 ounces per ton. Gold today is about 1,300 bucks an ounce. Do some quick math, times 22 ounces per ton, just in one ore cart, the money starts adding up pretty quick. Anyway, so we're inside this tunnel here. That begs the question, how do these crazy miners dig these tunnels? And everybody knows the answer. it goes boom.
That's the easy way of doing it.
Yeah, dynamite. We use lots of dynamite. Now, in order to use the dynamite, we got to drill holes into this rock. So, the tools back in the day, where's your drill bit and your hammer? And so, this is a direction we're going to building our tunnel. This is my job as a hard rock miner. Now, this technique, with one guy working like this with one drill, one hammer, that's called single jacking. Now, another technique is if I have a very trusty partner, and he's going to take this heavy hammer here, and I'm going to hold this drill bit over my shoulder, and he's going to smack that behind my head because I'm twisting this drill bit. So that technique is called double jacking. And what could go wrong, right? So our goal is to drill maybe 8 to a dozen holes here, 4 feet deep. So now, back in the day, in the 1860s, gold and silver mining was the captive industry. It is the whole reason these mountain towns are here. Why we have Georgetown, Idaho Springs, Breckenridge, Aspen, Telluride, Ouray. It's all because of the mining industry. So there's a lot of resources and investment thrown at it. Because that's not a particularly sophisticated way of mining, is it?
No, and it's very slow too.
So they invent the air drill. Now the air drill is really efficient. It'll take this 4-foot drill bit and drill that in just 2 minutes. That's how fast it is. The problem is, in the early days, it's kicking up a bunch of this rock dust. This tunnel is full of dust. And these miners are breathing it in. They're getting sick. In fact, it's killing them. So these early drills earned a nickname. And a lot of people are familiar with what this nickname was. Any guesses?
I think it's called a widowmaker.
Widowmaker, you got it. These frontier women were losing their husbands. They were becoming widows. Now to fix that problem, you redesign the drill. You have a water line here. And now this drill bit is hollow. So it is injecting water into the rock, captures that dust, just makes mud. So, we have a drill right here that works. So that means I'm going to fire it up for you guys.
Okay.
It is loud. And you are going to feel it in your body as it reverberates in this tunnel. And because it is so loud, I'm only going to shoot it off about a second.
Okay.
Okay, you guys ready? So, can you imagine doing that all day for your shift? And yet, if that noise bothers you, you do something about it. There's no O-shot, M-shot back in the days. Put some cotton balls or something in your ears. So let's go over here and see what the miners are doing today. I'll just kick that off. Put it in later. So if I shine my light down there, you guys can see that there's some water. And what the miners are doing today is they have a dredge back there and a sluice box, and a big sluice box about 20 feet long. And they're kind of doing what the miners did out in the creeks and rivers 150 years ago. They are picking up all this stuff on the ground. We call it muck. And you can see it takes a whole lot of 5-gallon buckets to do this as well. So I got a sluice box over here to kind of show you what's going on here. So, modern sluice box you can buy in Denver today. So all that muck and water is being dumped into the sluice box. It's slanted downhill and it starts flowing downhill like this. Now this is a gold, silver, lead, zinc, and copper mine. Those are all heavy metals, right?
Right.
Gold's the heaviest. It's 8 to 9 times heavier than just the host rock. So what does a piece of heavy gold do in water?
Sinks to the bottom.
Sinks to the bottom. Everybody gets that. So all this heavy material starts sinking down here, and it gets caught in these riffles. The lighter waste material continues washing away. That's their first step of classification. So they clean that up, and then they come over here. So we come over here, we have all this modern mining equipment here, and they're doing some testing. You can see the miners are a fan of Folgers coffee, but I like to come over to this piece of equipment here. So they take that stuff out of the sluice box, and they put it on this machine here. And you can very clearly see as it spirals is moving up. Now the heavy minerals gets caught in the riffles, gets moved up, gets deposited in the center, and gets collected back here. The lighter sand material stays down here and gets washed out of the bottom. But you can very clearly see all the sparkle on the riffles there. So you do that enough times, then you get this. Now this will be sent to a company in Denver that has the right permits and various chemicals to extract the gold, extract the silver, extract the lead, separate it out so that you're able to melt it down into those gold, silver, and lead bars. Now if I pass this around and you can hold it, you would immediately know that this is heavy for its size. That's the theme that we're working with here today. This stuff is heavy. Now this is the mining that we're doing today. We're going to keep everything underground. This is different than how the miners did it 150 years ago, because they would take tons and tons of this gold ore in those ore carts. And we used to have a stamp mill outside. Stamp mill had these very heavy metal stamps, and they're pounding up and down. This gold ore is being pushed through there and is being crushed and we get it to a sand-like state. And then from there we'd want to further reduce it, something similar to a sluice box, get rid of the waste material. Now they didn't have this fancy equipment back then. What they did have, for example, in that mill is what's called a shaker table. And it does exactly what it says. It shakes to help further reduce it. This is much more sophisticated than a shaker table, but they're doing something similar. So then the mine would produce this kind of stuff here, send it to a refinery down in Idaho Springs, and further reduce it there. Now, for example, back in the day, to get the gold out of here, they would use mercury. Mercury's kind of bad for us, right?
Yeah.
So today we use cyanide. It's a leaching process to separate the heavy materials. So that's the difference between the old school way of mining, drilling, blasting, mucking, crushing rock. We're not doing that. You're going to see that there's gold everywhere in this mine. It's already been, we just got to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're keeping everything underground today, stay on within a permit, and be nice to the neighbors. All right, so we're going to start walking inside the mine here. We want to stay inside the tracks because we have some real sticky mud on the outside. If you step in it, it will take your shoe off. One of the first things the geologists notice about this mine is this hanging wall. You can see how smooth it is. It is much different from this wall over here. They have identified this as an ancient fault. That's where the earth is cracked and separated. The miners had dug out the fault and left the left side of the hanging wall. Okay guys, how do you make a well?
You dig straight down.
You punch a hole in the ground, right?
Right.
We got a pretty good sized hole in the ground right here. Water seeks the path of least resistance. And so water is seeping in parts of this mine, and in this particular area, it's picking up manganese, and it's reacting with oxygen for the very first time. But the miners gave it a very cool name. School kids love it. But here we have dragon's blood. Yes, dragon's blood, very dark, reddish black.
Almost looks like rust, doesn't it?
Oh, it looks like blood to me. Have yet to see a dragon underground here, though.
How far in the mountain are we at this point?
We are 300 feet. Okay, anybody as tall as me, watch out for this rock right here, because it has my name on it. Just a couple days ago it clocked me. Alright guys, what do you think is going on here?
I don't know.
I'll shine my light on it right here.
Another vein.
See all the color? This is a gold and silver vein. We're intersecting it like this, and so as we dig out the vein, the remainder of it's going to be above our heads and below our feet. And so the miners started examining this vein here in this rift. And you can see all the color here. Very distinct line of the vein. Lots of color. Comes all the way here. And it comes up to here. This is our face. That's what the miners call it, the face. Now you can see our holes are drilled. We got our dynamite in there. We got our fuses in there ready to go. The miners call those rat tails. And then the miner yells something underground before he lights those off. What does he yell?
Fire in the hole, maybe?
Fire in the hole. That's where that comes from. Now, it's a little bit misleading that this face is going to blow up and this rock is going to come flying out of the mountain. That is not what happens. He has set these to go off in a series. That means the center goes first, then the sides, the top, finally the bottom. Those are called the lifters. And since it goes off in a series, it's going to go boom, 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 like that. Now, also, there's another important reason why that's happening. Because he's right around the corner here. You don't go outside of the mine, that's way too far. But he's around the corner. He's got his hands over his ears. Not because it's loud, but for the shock waves, the compression underground. But he's also around there, he's counting them. Because if he put 8 sticks of dynamite in there, and he's counting them and gets to 6 and 7, come on 8, where's 8? 8 didn't happen. So remember, we drilled 4 feet deep, all this rock fractured on itself, and it just falls down. And now he's got to find that stick of dynamite and make it safe. Since we are in a gold vein here, this is gold ore, that gets thrown into the ore carts, taken out of the mine, gets to the mill, and start that processing of crushing the rock. If this were part of the mine where this is waste rock, throw it in the ore cart, take it outside the mountain there, and throw it off to the side. That's what creates those mine dumps that you see outside.
Now, it looks like you got a pretty good vein. Why did they stop here?
They stopped here because all hands on deck, mother load, 3,200 feet,
Oh, okay.
22 ounces per ton. We know this is here, that's fine. So, back in the day, miners didn't have fancy LED lights, did they?
No.
No, what do you think they used?
Candles.
They used candles. So, over here, the blacksmith would make these special candles, holders. It has a hook on it, or if we had timbers, you can stick it into the timber. And you'll see a lot of these in the antique stores. Now I know miners didn't have these lighters back then, but this just makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes these candles are a little difficult to get lit because of the moisture underground. Now also, these miners had to buy their own candles. The mine did not give them candles. So this is literally their money burning up. So they're not going to have a whole bunch of candles in this drift here just to make it look pretty, are they?
No.
No. So here, we'll hang it back on the rock. So I want to show you guys what it's like to be working in this part of the mountain by candlelight. You know what that means, right?
Yeah, lights out.
I'm going to hit the lights, just make sure. But this is what it's like to be working underground by candlelight. Now you see my trusty partner when we're double jacking. He better be pretty good at his job, right?
And sober, too.
Yeah, if he smacks me, that's going to hurt. But when we double jack, we take turns. Pretty soon I am going to be swinging the hammer. Now the question to the group is, do I turn the lights on first or do I blow the candle out first? What do you want?
I think probably lights on first.
You want the lights on? You're not going to go for it, huh?
Nah.
Okay. So anyway, part of my mantra, crazy miners working by candlelight. So this vein is going in this direction too. Watch your heads. So it's coming right over here. following it this way, so they started chasing it. But this is what a mine looks like without any lights. This goes about 80 feet and then it stops. But you notice all this mud and muck here. This has been collecting for the past 100 years. This is where the miners want to bring their dredge and their sluice box next, because we are inside of a gold vein right here. And this mud's been sitting here for 100 years. So let's continue further. So what's going on here?
Looks like another vein.
Another gold and silver vein comes over this way. They started digging it out. And this goes about 100 feet back there. But you can see there's something else going on here. All of this rock and dirt. This is called backfill. So think about it, if you're a miner and you're pushing out an ore cart and it's got waste rock in it, you know you're going to throw it off the side of the mountain. And you're coming by here, they're done mining in here, just a big hole in the ground. And you look at it and you go, do I really need to go another 500 feet just to throw this rock off the side of the mountain? No, we put it in here. That's a modern mining technique still used today. Saves a whole lot of time and money versus taking it outside of the mine.
I imagine so, yeah.
So guys, I want to talk to you about this water here. You can see it moving. You can actually see gold and silver down at the bottom here. But which way does water flow?
Out the mine or downhill?
Downhill.
Yeah.
That means we are walking uphill. So these miners, as they're building these tunnels and laying these tracks, they're putting it in there at a slope. Let's say it's 2 degrees. That does two things. One, has a way for the water to drain out of the mine. And that's the advantage of mining like this versus on the surface when you have to sink a shaft. Because where does that water go?
Let's go up.
It's going to stay up in the mine, floods the mine. Water mitigation is a huge problem. Secondly, those ore carts, they're heavy, but one miner can push an empty one uphill by himself. And then when it's full of rock and weighs 2,000 pounds, he can push it out by himself because
Gravity.
downhill.
Yeah.
Right. Crazy miners, but still pretty smart. All right, let's go further. All right, I'll shine my light over here. What's going on?
Looks like a new vein.
Another gold silver vein.
Yeah.
Comes up here, comes over here. And they did a little bit of investigating it, not too far. But okay, we know it's here, but all hands on deck at the mother lode. The peak of the mine, in the early 1900s, they had 46 miners working here underground. Also, if I step to the side, you guys look down the tunnel, you can see how much further we still have to go. So, let's get moving. All right, guys, I'm going to stump you here. What's going on? It's another ore deposit, but it looks different, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Yeah, and the geologists would mark the yellow paint. This is some kind of mineral zone here, but obviously they didn't dig it out. They had no use for it. It's not gold, silver, lead, or zinc. So, we've tested it lately, and it contains some rare earth minerals. This is stuff that we need for today's modern society, for our electronics, our phones, our satellites, our computers, things like that. There's 17 of them on the table. I don't remember the name of one of them. Some of them are real long, complicated Latin type names. They couldn't name any of them as simple as gold, just 4 letters.
Now, how would that compare in value to gold? These rare earth minerals?
I don't know. I have a feeling to mine it, it's a very expensive process to do that. China has 98% of the world market of rare earth minerals. So anyway, there's several more of these veins inside the mine as we make our way through there. But this stuff's kind of boring to me, so let's go find some gold and silver.
Okay.
500 feet now to our stope. earth right there. Okay, this is an interesting geological feature. Again, you can see the yellow paint. This is another ancient fault that happened millions of billions of years ago when the fault separated and it was intruded with basalt. And so the geologists call this feature a dike. So no minerals here, but just a geological feature. Okay guys, what's going on here?
It's like a new vein.
Another gold and silver vein. In fact, you can see all the color on it here. And this is the part of the mine that is haunted. Yeah, my phone just beeped. So this was worth investigating. They went over in this direction here. But very clearly you can see the line of the vein here.
And that's a pretty darn rich vein, I think.
Yes, it is. In fact, they started digging it out. Pretty good size. So what we're in here is what's called a stope. Stope is a mining term for where you're actively removing the minerals. Vertical vein, you start digging upwards on it. That's what a stope is. Now back at the mother lode at 3,200 feet, they started stoping on the left and to the right of the vein. And because this vein is going up, they sunk an underground shaft going upwards. And they went up 100 feet, started stoping some more. Another 100 feet, stoped some more. They did that 9 times. It created over 4.5 miles of tunnels back there at the mother lode. So you can imagine back in the day, you got your candlelight, your drill bits, your hammers, then your widow makers. Those things are heavy. Start making some scaffolding, some ladders, some ropes, get some support up there and start extracting this vein. So who wants to be a hard rock crazy miner?
Yeah, not me.
All right, I have something to show you here. It is tagged so it doesn't leave the mine. But you can see all this is called pyritic gold ore. The real sparkly stuff is pyrite. But if you were to hold this, you would realize that this is extremely heavy for its size. Now, it's a little misleading to think that you're going to find gold nuggets inside an underground mine. That doesn't happen. What happens is this eventually gets eroded, exposed to the surface, starts eroding, and the miners call it nano gold. It's microscopic, but it starts eroding, gets away from the host rock, and it kind of snowballs on itself as it makes its way down the mountains and streams. And that's where the flakes and the nuggets come from. And it's almost pure gold because it's been released from this. The hard rock gold miners had to take this material, like I showed you earlier, and smash it, crush it, and process it. But this is the host rock. This is where it's all coming from. All right, guys, you see all this rock down here? There's a reason I had you holding all this heavy stuff. Because most of this, I can't say 100%, but most of it is gold and silver ore. And you guys are welcome to take home a piece. But the key is, over time, even the side of the mine gets covered with mud. But if we scrape away the mud, you can see the color of this vein. So this rock gets covered in mud, and it's not shiny and sparkly. So what the key is to do is to find a piece of rock that feels heavy, feels dense for its size. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take this rock outside, we're going to rinse it off real quick, and everybody's seen the geologist with the geologist pick. We're going to take our rock and break it and see if we can get some fresh color. Now here's the story. Because you're going to have this rock on your desk or your mantle or something, and somebody's going to ask you, hey, what's the deal with that rock? And you tell them, that's not a rock. That is my gold and silver ore that I mined myself 1,000 feet underground. We didn't take it out for you. You didn't buy it at a rock shop. It's right here. So start mining. And don't ask me to hold it to see if it's a good piece, because that makes me the miner. You guys are the miners.
Okay.
Yeah. Guess which one the kids want?
The biggest one.
The biggest one, yeah. And some of them have taken some.
We'll try this one.
All right, so as we get our ore, let's come over here. Okay, we are 1,000 feet. Mother lode's how far?
I'm not sure.
3,200 feet.
Long ways away.
We've got 2,000 more feet to go to get to it. Now, also, there was a USGS report done in the 1930s, and they investigated a lot of the mines here in the West. And in this one, they looked at the size of the ore deposit, the mother lode. Technically, it's called the Etna vein. And they looked at the size of it. Then they looked at all the previous reports, how much ore had come out of this mine. And very simple math. You can tell what's left. They took out 18%. 82% of the mother lode is still back there at 3,200 feet. So that begs the question, why is this not a large commercial gold mine operation? Well, there are 23,000 abandoned mines in the state of Colorado alone. There is only one commercial gold operation today. Now, this type of mining is pretty much old school. When you got all these tunnels going here, there are gold and silver veins I didn't even show you that we had passed. We are inside a gold vein right here. We are inside a gold vein back there. Technically, you have gold on your shoes right now. So what would a modern mining operation do here?
Take the top of the mountain off, maybe?
Top, strip mine the entire area,
Yeah.
because it's everywhere. So what's the likelihood that these tourist towns like Georgetown or Aspen or Breckenridge and Telluride is going to allow a large strip mine operation right in their front yard?
Probably 0%.
A lot of pushback, right?
Yeah.
And these days the EPA wants to see a huge pile of money over here. That's your reclamation budget, because you are not walking away from this mine like the miners did 50 to 100 years ago. So it makes it a lot more difficult to mine in the United States for gold. And so everybody's heard of the mines in South Africa. Some of those mines go down 2 miles, and they're some of the richest mines in the world, but they're 128 degrees down there. And so Indonesia is a real hotbed right now for mining, because our EPA doesn't reach that far. So there's so much to see here. It was difficult to come up with the tour dialogue and still stay under an hour. Here's some stalactites starting to form. That's limestone. If we come back here, what, another 500 million years? We'd be all the way to the ground. More rare earth right there. Another one right there. Watch out with this one.
Okay.
This is a pretty cool section. Look at all the limestone coming out.
Oh, yeah. That is neat.
And you know, it's hard as a rock. You know, it looks liquid. We've got this section here too. Pretty neat. One more mining term to learn. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
I hope so.
Go on that way. I'm going to put this back in here.